Good evening. I am Michelle Worcester, the Parent and Engagement Coordinator for the Nash County Public Schools. I would like to introduce today's topic, 2021 to 2022 instructional options for the next coming school year. Today's agenda will include a welcome logistics and our special topic presentation on the 2021 to 2022 instructional options. Following this presentation will be a question and answer panel with our Nash County Public Schools staff. If you'll notice on the bottom of your screen are the letters Q and A. If you select that button on Q and a pop-up screen will pop up. This is where you can type any questions or comments that you would like for the panel to answer and to address. At this time, I would like to introduce Mrs. Melissa Dancy Smith, the Assistant Superintendent of Academics and Accountability.
Good evening. Words inadequately express how much it means that you have taken a break in what we know to be your busy schedules to become connected, informed, and engaged in choosing the learning environment for your child during the upcoming 2021-22 school year. Whether you choose to return to brick and mortar in the fall or enroll in our district's online learning program, which is Nash Everywhere Digital Academy, NETA, which will be referred to as NETA hereafter. Our commitment is to make learning for your child exciting, engaging, and rigorous. We are excited about opening a new school year and what it will look like for our students and our families. In a moment, members of this panel will share more information about Nash Everywhere Digital Academy and in-person instruction choices for next school year.
Our presentation for today will consist of the following panel members, starting with the far right, working to the left of the screen. Mrs. Christy Grant, the Executive Director of EC and Student Support. Mr. Danny Pryor, Director of Instructional Technology and Virtual Learning. Dr. Edward Hicks, Director of Curriculum Supports. Mrs. Melissa Dancy Smith, Assistant Superintendent of Academics and Accountability. Mr. Chad Thompson, Executive Director of Secondary Education and CTE. And Mrs. Deb Terrell, COVID Lead Nurse. We will also have joining us Dr. Steve Ellis, Superintendent, is also present to answer any questions, as well as Mr. Tremaine McQueen, Executive Director of Technology and Innovation, and Mrs. Monique Hargrove Jones, Executive Director of Elementary Education.
I'd like to begin the presentation to giving some brief overviews of what in-person instruction will look like for the 2021-2022 school year. At the beginning of the school year, our plan is for schools to return to a regular schedule Monday through Friday, just like we had prior to COVID. You can expect daily in-person instruction, just as we had before. Only exceptions might be in specialized programs. With the exception of specialized programs, there will be no virtual students in part of these classes. We will not have any blended instruction as we did during this school year. And we will continue to use the district learning management systems at each grade level. For the Nash Everywhere Digital Academy, again being referred to as NETA moving forward for 21-22. Nash County Public School teachers will be teaching all of the students that are enrolled in NETA for kindergarten through 8th grade, as well as our occupational course of study and extended content standard students. You can expect daily live instruction virtually, and those times will be appropriate for the age of their individual students. Students who enroll in NETA in Power School will be enrolled in a school inside a school registered at Tar River Academy. If you're in middle school, those students would have opportunities to participate in athletics and extracurricular activities at your domicile school, which would mean the school within the district closest to where you live. You can expect similar pacing as our in-person or face-to-face instruction. Since they'll be taught by teachers within our district, we will follow the same pacing guides, use the same district resources as our in-person students. District calendar will be followed the same. And for elementary, there would be no live instruction for our special areas, which would be art, music, and PE. For our high school students, all courses will be taken through Ed Options Academy, with the exception of, as we mentioned before, our OCS and ECS students. Ed Options Academy employs North Carolina fully certified teachers. They will not be teachers in our district, but they will be North Carolina certified. And you can expect flexible scheduling. There will be no live instruction for those classes so that you can complete those when it's convenient for you during the day. There'll be a pacing guide to help you stay organized and up to speed on all of your courses. The only exception with that could possibly be either AP or IB courses, some CTE, junior ROTC, or group courses like band, chorus, and dance. And Mr. Thompson will address that later in the presentation. One question that came up in the first meeting, so we're going to detail this just a little bit more, what schedules would look like for in-person and for NETA. For elementary, our time frames for school will be 8:15 to 3:15, Monday through Friday for in-person instruction. For the NETA, you can see for K2 and 3-5, those are the number of minutes per day that you could expect live, whole group live instruction. And that instruction would happen sometime between that same time frame of 8:15 to 3:15. In middle school, our time frame for in-person instruction will be 7:30 to 2:30, again, Monday through Friday. And for our NETA, they could expect 45 minutes per teacher per day for their core classes. And live instruction, again, will be scheduled between that same time frame for middle school as in person from 7:30 to 2:30. In high school, from 7:30 to 2:30 again for in-person instruction. And for early college is 9:30 to 4:30, and city high school from 9 to 4. For NETA, since most of our students will be working through Ed Options Academy, there's not a set schedule. They will have to be self-motivated to get their courses done in an appropriate amount of time, with the exception of our OCS and ECS students. And you can see there, there'll be around 60 minutes per subject per day, with their live instruction schedule the same as the regular high school day from 7:30 to 2:30.
And as we move to looking at our student services considerations, for all students who are in person for counseling services, students will have full access to all support services on campus. And in NETA, students will have access to counseling services needed to meet their educational goals. Mental health services will be offered as needed, both virtually and a teletherapy mode, and community-based as needed. For nursing services, for those in person, students will again have access to all nursing services on campus. And for those in NETA, the school nurses will monitor immunizations and other health-related enrollment information, as well as provide referrals and make connections to resources as requested by the parent or guardian. In terms of special education, for all students in person, they will have full access to all of the services and supports as outlined in their IEP. In NETA, the IEP team will meet to determine if the IEP can be delivered as written in a virtual setting. If full FAPE, a free appropriate public education, cannot be delivered as written in the IEP, then the IEP team will develop an online services and support plan to outline the services and supports that can be delivered in the virtual setting based on the individual student's needs. For students with 504 plans, students will have full access in person to all supports determined needed by the 504 team. In NETA, the 504 team will also meet to determine if any changes to any accommodations or supplementary aids or services need to be made to the plan due to the virtual setting. Any services offered through our social workers for our students in person, they will have full access to all of those services. And in NETA, the students will have access to all services as needed to meet their educational goals. For social emotional learning, for any student in person, universal social emotional learning and prevention services are offered for all students pre-K-12. And in NETA, universal social emotional learning and prevention services are offered to all students in grades K-8.
For dual language instruction classes, all dual language instruction classes will be offered in the in-person setting only. And our dual language immersion sites are Bailey Elementary, Middlesex Elementary, and a combination of Winstead Avenue, K2, and Inglewood Elementary, 3-5. For ESL, English learners, those are the students who qualify for ESL services. All ELs or Ls receive an individualized language acquisition plan, and that plan will be addressed appropriately by ESL staff in either the in-person setting or in NETA.
As far as high school considerations, we're going to talk through some programs. So we're looking at career and technical education. So in person, students will have full access to all CTE courses on campus. In NETA, students will take some CTE courses on campus due to the hands-on aspect of the course. For IB, students will have access to IB courses in person at Rocky Mount High School if accepted into the program. In NETA, the students will be required to report to Rocky Mount High School as well if they're accepted in the IB program. For advanced placement or also AP, students will have full access to all AP courses on campus and online for in-person. For NETA, students will be able to take many AP courses online, but will be required to report to campus for courses such as AP Research and AP Seminar. For our JROTC program, students will have full access to JROTC courses on campus and in-person learning. NETA students will be required to come to campus to take the JROTC courses. In our band, our arts, our dance courses, our programs, students will have full access to band and dance courses on campus for in-person. In NETA, students will be required to report to campus so they can take those courses in person. And then lastly, for extracurricular activities and clubs, in-person students will have full access to extracurricular and club activities on campus. NETA students will also have this access, but they will need to report to campus to participate in extracurricular and club activities. So we want to also let you know that the instructional choice form is available until May the 24th. All students should complete the form, whether they plan to stay in person or apply for NETA.
For all questions and any contact information that you may need, please reach out to Danny Plyer, our Director of Instructional Technology and Virtual Learning, and his email is posted on the screen. At this time, we will have questions for our panel. Please, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A that's at the bottom of your screen and place your questions in so that we may be able to ask the panel. We do have some pre-selected questions that we will start our panel questions with. The first question is, please describe the ideal student for the virtual academy for each grade level.
Okay, we feel this student will need to be organized, committed to doing the coursework that's required within the program. Also, one that is self-motivated and a student who could really remain on task and finish their work in a timely manner.
In addition to those things, that student profile would include all families who have access to dependable internet services, and also families, parents, guardians, or community partners who can commit to supporting children throughout the instructional day to ensure that they're able to participate in online instruction daily.
We have a question from the parents. Can a student enroll in OPED but take classes she is already enrolled in at a community college face-to-face?
Do you mind repeating that again, please?
Can a student enroll in NETA but take classes she's already enrolled in at the community college face-to-face?
Yes, that is a possibility because the community college is a separate entity with our CCP courses. So if they are allowed to, or if they're enrolled at the community college, they can continue to take those college courses.
Thank you. Will students have to come on campus to take any kind of assessment? And will transportation be provided if they are required to come to campus?
To begin with, yes, transportation will be provided for any student who is enrolled in NETA and who needs to come in to take any federal or state required assessments. So those assessments can be things like the EOC, which is the end of course for our high school students, our end of grade assessments for our elementary and middle school students, the beginning of grade 3 BOG assessment for our third grade students, ACT, COGAT. Any district benchmarks can be taken remotely.
Okay. We have a parent who's asked to clarify, NETA students will not be enrolled in their regular district school, but instead be enrolled in Tar River, which is an alternative school, correct?
That is correct.
For high school students, what are the attendance expectations for passing with NETA?
So the attendance is going to be very important. There will be attendance requirements, and the program that we'll be using is Ed Options. There is an attendance piece there within the program. So we will be sharing that attendance the policy with you very soon, but there will be attendance requirements.
What is the process for students whose parents would like to request a learning disabilities testing while in virtual setting?
Anytime there is a suspicion of a disability, the parent needs to put their concerns in writing to the administrator. A meeting will be arranged with an IEP team to discuss and review any existing data and the concerns that the parent has and determine if there are further evaluations or data that's needed in order to make a determination about the existence of a disability. If testing is requested, then testing will need to be done in person with our school psychologist.
Will high school students who participate in NETA be allowed to attend their home schools events such as prom?
Yes, these students will be able to participate in their home school events. It will once again be the event of the school that is they're domiciled in as their particular school.
Just to add to that, I didn't say this at the beginning, but high school students will continue to remain enrolled at their home high school. Only a K-8 students would be enrolled at Tar River Academy.
Thank you for that clarification. How will electives be handled for middle school NETA students?
So there will be some electives, but we're going to be very limited in the number of electives that we can offer in middle schools. So right now there will be a limited number of electives. So that's the way we will handle it at this point in NETA.
Can you walk us through what can you walk us through what in-person day-to-day instruction will look like for students? Mask wearing, lunch, changing classes, etc.
Okay, so are we talking about in person?
Yes.
Okay. So in person is going to be back as normal as we were before COVID, meaning that whatever the health requirements that are in place, they will be required to do those. but we will see where that's at. And I'm going to let Deb Terrell answer some of those questions as well as far as safety.
Excuse me, at this point, I can only tell you, moving forward, we would be where we're at right now. I'm sure Strong Schools will be updated. That's who we follow all our guidance for our safety precautions in the school setting. So as far as will we be opening the lunchrooms, will be wearing masks, not wearing masks, I really don't have an answer at this time. I can tell you it will, for right now, it'll look like it looks today.
Will middle school students enrolled in NETA be allowed to participate in their home school extracurricular activities on campus?
So for athletics, that is definitely yes. For other extracurricular activities, we're still more than likely not going to do that, only because of funding and things that are given to this particular school, and they would not be enrolled in that school.
Are there any immunization requirements for students who attend NETA?
The immunization requirements are the same for our NETA students as they are our in-person. So a complete immunization record, and then keeping current on your immunizations as you progress through the grades. And first-time enrollees in Nash County Public Schools must submit a North Carolina health assessment.
Will pre-K students have the option to attend NETA?
At this time, the Department of Child Development and Early Education is our governing body for our preschool program. They will determine the modes of instruction that we will offer our preschool students next year, and we are still awaiting guidance from them.
Thank you. Will the school system be providing students in NETA hotspots and laptops?
Yes, that's a good question. And one of the things I want to make sure and make clear that we in Nash County Public Schools, we practice equity. What we do for one student, we do for all students. And we will provide a device to all students enrolled in the Nash County Public Schools, and that also includes our NETA students. With that said, unfortunately, we will not provide hotspots to our NETA students. If I understand correctly, on the application, it states that families are required to have a stable internet connection.
That's correct.
That is correct, right? And so at this time, we're not going to provide hotspots to NETA students.
Will the window for selecting NETA over face-to-face apply to parents who enroll their children over the summer?
Yes, new enrollees to the district will have the option of whether they want to choose in-person or NETA. New enrollees.
Will NETA students be taking their EOGs in their home school or central location for Tar River Academy?
So a lot of the logistics we are still working out. Our vision would be to have students come into Tar River Academy to take that assessment, but we know that Tar River Academy is at capacity for the most part. So the second option would be to work with the base school principals to see if they could have them come in to take those required state and federal assessments at their base schools. Or we may set up an alternative location for those students as well. But we will work those logistics out for our students.
If a parent does not complete the registration form for either face-to-face or NETA, what would be the automatic default for the student?
The default would be in-person instruction if they do not complete the form.
At this time, for anyone who has questions that they would like to pose to the panel, please enter them into the question and answer so that we will be able to get you the response. And here goes one. With the logistics still being worked out with NETA, will families be able to change their choice?
So when we say the logistics are still being worked out, what that means is when we think about testing, because we know we will not administer any test this summer. So by the time we open schools, we will definitely have that worked out. And what we would like for parents to do is to commit in K-8 for a year, and for our high school students to make a commitment for a semester.
Thank you. We strongly encourage all of our parents to engage in this panel by presenting us questions while we have the experts with us. While we're waiting for parents to add questions, we would like to take this time to allow Mrs. Monique Hargrove Jones to talk to us about kindergarten registration.
Thank you. Our kindergarten registration window for the district is still open. Schools have held their events at their individual sites. However, there are 3 ways that you can still enroll your child in kindergarten. And this is for any child who will be 5 by August 31st. You can enroll online by going to our district webpage and clicking the link there. You can also stop by any of our 13 elementary schools who have kindergarten to pick up an enrollment packet or to drop an enrollment packet off. And you can also go to our student data centers and fill out an enrollment packet there. Also, our pre-K application window is still open, and that is for any student who will be 4 by August 31st, and you can apply for pre-K by using any of those 3 options as well.
We have a question. Why are things changing to NETA versus virtual as is today? What is driving the change?
The change in our model for instruction virtually comes from our experiences from what we've done through this past school year. The blended instruction that we tried to do was some at home and some face-to-face. Just being honest, was not as successful as we had hoped that it would be. And our goal in this, by having just virtual and just in-person instruction, is to provide the best instruction we can for our students.
If neither student's personal situation changes during the school year, will they be allowed to change to an in-person instruction after the end of the first semester?
So what we're committed to all of our students being in an environment where they can thrive. So what we would do is we would have to deal with that on an individual basis. And if it is determined that a child is not successful in our digital learning environment, then we will pull all experts together, and those experts could be people on this panel, student services, just different people to help us make the decision that is best for the child.
So enrolling for a semester for high school is required, but if you are taking college classes through City High, how does that work with NETA?
That's a good question. And we didn't mention this before, early college and city high school students would not be eligible for NETA because of that exact reason. But taking the college courses that they do through the community college, we would not be able to provide those in a virtual manner.
Will the students be required to have COVID-19 shots by the opening of school in the fall?
No, at this point in time, there's no requirement for COVID immunization.
Thank you. Can a family send one student to an in-person school and have another student in virtual?
Absolutely. If that is a family's choice and they would like to have one child in an online learning environment and the other in person or brick and mortar, that's a family's choice.
At this time, we will still have entertain any questions that the panel has, and we have one just popped up. For students who excel with virtual instruction, NETA does not sound very attractive versus the live virtual instruction we have today?
There will continue to be live virtual instruction. What we've had this year, whether it was blended or not, there was still time that the students were online for live instruction. That will continue. If you want to pull back up the schedule, you can at least see the time frames that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. We can back up just a second to get to that. Yeah, so you can see there on the right side under NETA, the time frames that will be for in-person instruction daily for K2, 3, 5, 6, 8. All those will continue, so they will continue to get live instruction in NETA. That wouldn't be split between virtual students and in person at the same time. The teacher would be completely focused on the virtual students at one time.
And Mr. Plyler, may I add that we want parents to make an informed decision. So our research and our training lets us know or has shown us that virtual instruction and online instruction don't equate to the same amount of seat time. So that's why we knew that we needed to share with families the ideal profile for an online learner.
If a student does NETA for this year, would they be able to return to their base school the following school year for in-person instruction?
Yes.
We would like to give parents a moment to reflect and see if there's any questions that they would like to have answered. While we are given that time, Mrs. Terrell, can you please explain to parents what they need to do for immunization in preparation for its returning in fall?
So if you have students who you've been notified during the school year who are lacking some immunizations, those will need to be completed over the summer. Talking about our 7th grade students who would need their meningitis and their Tdap booster. And all of our rising seniors are going to be needing a second meningitis vaccine. And all of our kindergarten students will be needing their health assessment and completing up all of their booster shots that their pediatrician can guide them through. So that's a good time now to make that appointment for your health assessment because the appointments book up fast over the summer. They're good for a full year. So anytime from August of 2020 through this coming school year, 2021.
Thank you. Ms. Grant, we have a question for you. If a parent has a medical emergency, sickle cell hospitalization, will the child that is EC have the option to do virtual instruction due to the circumstance?
The IEP team would certainly meet and determine. Homebound is always an option that the IEP team could request so we would, if the child was in person and needed to go to a virtual learning, then the IEP team would make that decision for cases such as that. If they're in person in NETA, then we certainly would they would still have access to the online program.
What would be the procedure in the event COVID numbers spike at a particular school? Would those students be able to participate in the NETA program?
So we would certainly have to follow the metrics of the state. But what we would do instead of those students participating in the NETA program, we plan to build safeguards in place next year where the base schools can address the needs of those students.
My child is in a special needs class. Is there anything that will need to be different for them than for the rest of the students in the school?
No, for NETA, for online instruction, I'm assuming, no, there would not be. Once we look at our numbers and determine how many students that are enrolled in our self-contained or extended content standards classrooms, then we will make determines from there. They need to complete the survey if they're wanting to go into the NETA program. And then we will determine what those services. Our vision is that we would have teachers at the district level only teaching virtual, our students in NETA and not having the split instruction. But we'll have to really make those determinations when we see the number of students we have.
Can my child join the virtual school in January 2022 if COVID numbers increase? And I think that question is for both high school and elementary. So for the high school student, Can they join January 2022?
If the COVID numbers increase and we're at a point where students have to enroll virtually for high schools, it is absolutely not a problem because they can actually enroll by semesters. For our elementary students, we would certainly have to follow the metrics and consult with our local health departments to make decisions regarding switching students to virtual, as well as receive guidance from the Department of Public Instruction. So a lot of flexibilities that we had this year, we will not have some of those flexibilities.
And some person's asking if COVID numbers decrease, would students then be able to go from NETA to face-to-face in January?
So I do want to clarify that NETA is not a response to COVID. COVID may have accelerated the district's desire to bring our K-8 students on board with online learning, but our high school students have been enrolled in virtual academy for years. What this has taught us is that for some of our students, having an online learning environment works well for families. A lot of our students fared well with virtual learning, but some of our students didn't. So what we want to do is just give parents an option to educate their children online or to have them in brick and mortar as we traditionally have done.
For students who are AIG identified, would there be AIG resources in NETA?
And I wrote that question down because I noticed that we did not address AIG. Yes, for students who are AIG, they have something called a DEP. So if they are identified, they will work with the AIG facilitators in their base schools.
While we're waiting to see if there's any more questions, I would like to re-emphasize that it's important that parents please fill out the form to let us know if your children will be coming face-to-face or virtually. During the summer is when we do our planning, and it's much better to plan in anticipation that you're coming than to make changes after August. In the event that a NETA teacher is out, will a substitute teacher be available, or will students be provided with alternative assignments and work?
So our substitutes are really good, and we have a great repository of substitutes. But the reality is what online learning has taught us, that a lot of our substitutes are not equipped with just the digital fortitude to teach students virtually. So it's ironic, Dr. Ellis and I spoke about this today. Our first line of defense would be to have a group of retired teachers who could serve as substitutes, but we also may have to move to asynchronous instruction on those days as well.
Mrs. Sanchez-Smith, can you please explain the concept asynchronous?
Asynchronous means that instead of having live instruction, teachers will leave assignments and students may work on a personalized learning program at home, like iReady or at Mentum, iStation, things of that nature, or the teacher can just make an assignment that requires children to extend their learning based on something that has already been taught. But there's no live instruction doing asynchronous instruction.
Thank you. How does NETA for K-8 compare to what other North Carolina schools are doing next year?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think what the parents wanted to know, when we look at NETA doing that K-8, that virtual learning, how would that compare to schools across our district or other districts doing virtual learning? Or are they having a similar program such as our NETA?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many districts will move to online instruction, but I know some of our larger school districts will be allowed to have up to 3, 4, 5 virtual academies just to deal with the sheer request from families. So again, I think COVID may have accelerated districts' need to move to virtual, but I think that when we think about what public education is going to look like, that the likelihood that we won't offer virtual would be slim to none.
Are students able to opt out of intergrade testing during COVID?
We would have to get guidance from the federal government as well as from the state. But for this school year, students are required to take all assessments and they should be administered in school.
Our next question, and I hope the parent doesn't mind, I'm going to help rephrase or add pieces to it. If you apply for virtual and you don't get accepted, would they just have to go to in-person school? And can you explain the process for parents? Is there a rejection? Is there a no? Or is it all parent selection?
For those, after parents have filled out the form and chosen that they're giving us their option for Digital Academy, we will look at several different criteria in choosing students for NETA. One would be what their attendance was like during this school year when we've had remote instruction already. How did they complete assignments? Were things done in a timely manner? And also, was there consistent internet access is one of the things that we put on there as a memorandum of understanding that they would sign. And then also we'll take principal recommendation. We'll talk to the principals from the schools that they're currently in to see what the principals felt like in terms of how they completed their assignments, how did they do their work, were they up to date in attendance and things like that. So those will be the things that we'll consider when choosing the students for NETA.
If a family or student leaves another district to join the Nash County Public Schools family mid-year, would they have the option to choose between in-person or NETA?
I believe our choice would be any new enrollees would have the option to choose.
If a child has a 504 for them, how would that work with them being virtual? So for those students that would rather be virtual, are those classes to be set aside a time to be in class, or would the teacher just leave videos and work?
The students, just with the 504 is only going to offer accommodations that would level the playing field in order for the child to access the instruction. The actual instruction provided would still be with the schedules that all the students in NETA are doing. So the instructional time would not be any different than what was listed on the screen earlier for the students in virtual setting. What the 504 team will do is come in and look to see, were there any additional accommodations that need to be put in place in order for that child to access those services online that are in existence for all students online. I think I answered the question.
That did, and I think another piece for that question was with videos. The curriculum, would that curriculum for NETA be just videos and student work, or would it be work that's aligned to the district's pace and guide what students are getting within the regular classroom?
Teachers within NETA will be following the same pacing guide as in-person instruction. There are, and some of our digital resources do provide videos that can be watched after instruction to help follow up if they may need some help with that, but though they will receive direct instruction on a daily basis. And let me touch on that, just something else with that too. The timeframes that we listed there for the 90 minutes for K2 or 120 minutes for 3-5, just as an example, that really encompasses what the direct instruction would be. I think we mentioned that, but there'll also be opportunities for them for small group instruction with the teacher. So there may be a time that they are online with their teacher in a small group setting, or even through intervention or enrichment. So that time frame is really more specific to what the direct new instruction would be. But through the course of the day, there may also be small amounts of time that they join for small group or intervention or enrichment. So they'll be active, whether it be fully online or asynchronous, as Ms. Nancy Smith mentioned earlier, throughout that time period, that scheduled time.
Both my children were virtual this school year, so I don't know how lunch was handled. Will the special needs classes eat together in the cafeteria or in their classrooms? Will they be required to bring their lunch?
They're not required to bring their lunch. We offer free lunch and reduced lunch prices based on school of attendance. As far as will we be eating in the cafeteria or in the classroom at this point in time, I don't know what that will look like for next year. So we'll wait and get our guidance from the state and then make our plans accordingly.
Approximately how many students will be in the classrooms?
We will continue to follow the state's guidelines that clearly outlines for us in grades K-3 the number of students that we should have in each classroom. And we do the same thing for our 6-8 students.
Have the NETA middle school teachers been identified? Is there a website introducing the NETA middle staff? NETA middle school teachers will not have in-person students, correct? So they will be 100% NETA online students only.
You can address those one at a time.
Let me-
One at a time.
Have NETA middle school teachers been identified?
Currently, just as there's a form for parents to tell us whether they want to choose in-person or digital academy, we also have a form out right now for our teachers who want to choose whether they want to teach within NETA. So right now, we don't have any teachers identified for K-8. They're applying at this point. We have a set of criteria we're using to choose those. That answers that first question. And then would you get to the second one? Make sure that answer.
Is there a website that will introduce the NETA middle school staff? And I'm sure that applies to all the different schools.
Once we have those identified, then yes, we will identify those. And we do plan on providing a virtual open house for NETA, the same as we would for our regular schools. That'll have a chance to see them and maybe able to answer questions and meet those and get them prepared for the school year, just like we do in our in-person instruction.
Will the NETA middle school teachers not have any students in person? So that will make them 100% NETA online?
That is correct. That's our goal. Yes, ma'am.
But I do want to share with the families that is why it's so important that parents fill out the survey. So we will be able to determine the learning options, because a lot of the questions are contingent upon enrollment.
When it comes to the NETA Academy, would the website be underneath the Tar River Academy, or would it be a separate website for NETA? Exactly.
Lisa.
We would like to thank our panel and especially our parents for the question, and we have a question. Will EC students be dismissed early or on schedule with the rest of the students?
For the in-person students, then they would have the same schedule and follow the same schedule as everyone else. There would not be any early dismissals unless an IEP team determined that was needed based on the child's needs.
What are the guidelines for riding the bus? How many per seat?
Currently, it's back pre-COVID. So there are no, other than capacity of the bus, there are no restrictions on the number of children per seat.
Will senior graduates graduate from Tar River Academy or the school that they attended pre-COVID? What would the high school diploma say?
So the high school, if you remember, they're going to stay with their current high school. So they will actually graduate from the high school that they attend.
And so NETA for Tar River Academy only applies to what grades?
K-8.
We would like to thank all of our panelists. There's a question. With not having teachers yet in place for NETA, what will happen if there are not enough teachers that apply for NETA?
We have been looking at the applications as they have come in. I really think we will have more than enough teachers for NETA. We would need to look at certifications, the students who have applied, and then make a determination about the teachers who are the best fit based on the students that we'll serve. But we think we'll have more than enough. Unless our NETA numbers increase significantly.
Will all students in person still be required to wear a mask?
I don't have the answer to that question. We will get updated guidance over the summer for what's required. Currently, schools are required to wear masks when they are in the building. Anybody in a school building is required to wear a mask. So that's all I know now. So that's what I will project going forward.
Thank you. We would like to thank all of our panelists for taking the time out to answer our questions, and a special thanks to our parents, our guardians who have engaged with us tonight and presented us several questions for us to know what your concerns are so that we will be able to provide a better service to you and to your child. I would like to strongly encourage all parents to please schedule and go ahead and fill out the survey so that we can prepare for your children in whichever setting that you choose for them to attend. Please, if you have any questions, please reach out to Mr. Danny Plyer. He will be able to answer any of your questions regarding NETA. We will also have this presentation as well as our 10 o'clock presentation and the PowerPoint on our district website tomorrow. When you're on the district website, that big circle that's in the center, if you click on that, that is where you will find today's presentation as well as today's PowerPoint and the survey. And if you have any friends, please help us to get the word out. We want to be prepared in August when your babies come back, whether it's NETA or in face-to-face. And we'd like to be prepared knowing their names already. So it would be great if we know their names next week. So please fill out the survey. We would like to thank everyone for today's event and for their time. Thank you. Have a great night.